do declare, it is so exasperating waiting for Bobo to score. Why, it's the middle of the fourth quarter.
Alabama fans are wondering, can they make the playoffs? They can. The path might be a little difficult, and it's definitely going to go through Texas. Texas A&M and Texas will have a lot to say about whether Alabama makes the playoffs. But Alabama will have the most to say because all they need to do is win out. And they can make the playoffs. They're currently ranked 15th. It's not insurmountable to overcome. They've got LSU. The path will have to be cleared out. They'll need some help. They'll need Texas to help Alabama get to the playoffs, at least through the winning the SEC. They could still win the SEC, but that would take a lot of things to happen. Right now, they're just fighting to make that 5th spot that SEC might get. Because things could not go terribly right for Alabama. They could lose to Missouri, and this video would be pointless at this point because they have to beat Missouri. Alabama has to win out. Have to kind of win out. It used to be a requirement. What's the difference? The difference is that everybody doesn't have to win out. But can Alabama find some room to get in? It may have to take the 5th spot. It may take a scenario where the SEC gets 5 teams in. I've looked at that. It could happen. But we don't really want to speculate on all that right here in this video right now, but think about it. Go look at the schedules. You'll see that Bama has a shot, but some things have to go a certain way. Something that would immediately ruin it would be their own play. But assuming they're going to win out, Alabama we're speaking of, what else has to happen? They do need a little help. Just winning out won't quite be enough. What if one of those teams stays undefeated? LSU and Texas A&M, they play each other, but there's still a chance for an undefeated SEC team. That would involve a Texas A&M being able to beat LSU and Texas. Can that happen? It could. Texas A&M is a team everybody needs to spend a little time looking at, including myself. I need to kind of get refreshed on what that team is. I wrote them off when they didn't beat Notre Dame, and it seemed like they just went away, but all they did was win. And that's all Alabama has to do. It wouldn't be the end of the world if Alabama didn't make the playoffs, because in my opinion, they're not a team that's got what it takes to win the playoffs. So if they don't make it, it shouldn't be that big a deal. It's interesting, and I'm not an Alabama fan. If you're an Alabama fan, of course, you want to make it. But just watching the whole conference, Georgia's got a fight still, and their biggest fight is with an enemy that they have had very little success with. In fact, most of their losses have come from this opponent. And I'm not talking about Alabama. Georgia is going to win everything if they don't beat themselves. But they're capable of doing that. They're capable of making the game a lot closer than it needs to be. They're capable of taking the first half off in a championship game or the second half off and still winning. But they're going to have to play like they did against Texas against the rest of their opponents. And if they can do that, they're going to win the title. It's asking a lot in today's world. The NIL, the players have all the bargaining power It may not be so easy to pull that off, but they did pull it off against Texas, and the world needs to remember that instead of forgetting it because it was last week. If Georgia has fixed this problem, Georgia's going to win it. They're the best team, and they have been for 7 years. But you know what? There's another team we need to talk about, and that's Indiana. Because Indiana might be a very good football team, and they could win the national title, despite Georgia being the best team. They were the best team last year, didn't even make the playoff. Being the best team is probably not even one of the more important factors of winning a national title. It can actually be an impediment. Strangely enough.
Sorry ass DJ.
Georgia's had the best team since Kirby got there, barring the first season. They've had the best team in college football every year. Yes, I'm speaking through Georgia eyes. And we're lacking anything that could have stopped them from winning. They just didn't quite win every game, but they won most of them. And they won quite a few of them, and no one has to apologize for anything they didn't do. They've had the best team for the last 5 years, and you can't even really dispute it, but certainly the last 3, they've had the best team. Ohio State comes out and says they had the best roster. Maybe they did on paper. Alabama probably did. But what good does it do to have the best roster on paper? Texas A&M had the best roster on paper, and they couldn't win 5 games. Georgia's in that group that probably has, just to make it easy, they definitely have the players to win a national title. No matter what the problems are right now, or what they might be. If they handle situations correctly, they certainly can win it. Is there a favorite? I'm thinking, if my hunch is right, that there might be a favorite, though, and it's not Georgia. I think it might be Indiana, and we're going to talk about that team really in depth. Maybe not even in this video, but I want to talk about them. They won the Big Ten in 1967, one of the few teams that wasn't Michigan and Ohio State that have won the Big Ten a long time ago. I remember it, telling my age. I remember seeing the Sports Illustrated. They had the 67 Indiana team, Big Ten winners. I didn't even know what that meant. And it's been a long time since it happened again. And that team was 9-2, tied for the Big Ten technically, but they played in the Rose Bowl and they were considered the champion. It was a co-championship. Now they're 7-0, and the big dogs already 5-1 in the conference. And I think they may actually play themselves at least to the Big Ten title game. And I think they could win it. I like that team a lot. They have what Georgia had, in my opinion, in 21-22, and a team chemistry is outstanding. They're well coached. They have good enough players everywhere. They have depth. And the way he built the team has been through recruiting with character in mind, as well as talent, and coachability, and good coaches to coach them. And that's a good recipe, and Indiana has that recipe. They're living it out. They're well coached. Their players are good. They don't have great deficiencies, and they play well as a team. So far, that's been enough.